Hi guys, this is Josh from JR009, and I'm hugely amped to be able to welcome on this call John Jonas, a man I've relied upon to help me set up what I have now, which is 3 businesses, which include a blog, a web design company, as well as an internet marketing company. Now, many of you may or may not have heard, but he is the founder of ReplaceMyself.com, in addition to OnlineJobs.ph and TrackLabor.com. And one of the great things about John is that he's created a system whereby you can get a lot of the work that you would normally have to do yourself and entrust it to loyal, reliable, very highly skilled workers that are based in the Philippines. So instead of me going on and talking, I could talk all day about it because I've seen it work in my business. I'd like to just say welcome to John, and it's great to have you on the call.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. And it's really good to hear that you could talk all day about this too. So.
Yeah. But yeah, for people that don't know ReplaceMyself.com, can you just recap on what it is, the service it provides, and how you came to set it up in the first place?
Okay, so the service that Replace Myself is it's training on how and why to hire full-time virtual assistants in the Philippines. And it's not just, I mean, that's a tiny part of it is the training on how and why. The real part of the training is the training to give to the guys that you hire in the Philippines so that you don't have to train them. So it's as close to a done for you as I can get in terms of like hiring someone and training them without paying done for you prices. You know, it's not $1,000 a month or $3,000 a month as what people would typically pay for like someone to do it for you.
Right.
It's $97 a month, which is significantly different than, a done for you, but it's as close to that as you can get. So that's kind of what the service is. It's training for you, the business owner, and then it's training for your Filipinos to give to them to train them on how to do the things that you want done in your business. Yeah. The trainings that I've given to my team over the years. So that's what the service is. How did I come to set it up? That's the more interesting part of this. Is I was in a mastermind group a couple of years ago. And it was a pretty high level mastermind group with a bunch of names that you'd probably recognize if I went through them. And I probably didn't have any business being in the group, but I was there. Although Michelle McPherson said the same thing to me. She said, I don't have any business being there. and she obviously did. And so what I found at one point was, I was hiring these guys in the Philippines to do all kinds of work for me, and they were building me these businesses that made me a bunch of money on their own without me having to do the work. And I found myself talking every single week on this mastermind, teaching how to hire Filipinos because everyone wanted to know. And these were, guys making 6 or 7 figure a year incomes. They all wanted to know how I was doing this, how I was hiring these Filipinos to do this. And so, every week for like 6 weeks, I found myself talking about it, and finally just decided, there's more to this. So I recorded myself talking for an hour on a phone call and realized that there is so much demand for this. Everyone wants to know how and why you would hire a full-time person, because it's really, really different than any other outsourcing that people have ever heard. I mean, it's kind of, what you ever hoped outsourcing would or could be, it actually is. Right. And, obviously there's problems with it and there's difficulties, in anything, and you've got to work your way through that. But, significantly different than any other sort of outsourcing that people have ever seen. Very, very, very different than India, very different than Elance or Odesk or Guru.com, where you're hiring a freelancer. And so that's kind of how it came about. That's how Replace Myself came to be.
Right. I love how you touched on the point that it's different from hiring someone from India or freelancer. And I found that to be one of the turning points for me was in listening to the calls, getting an idea of what you were offering people if they signed up to the Replace Myself service. I could appreciate that many of the things you pointed out with regard to hiring Filipinos over and above other people in other countries were addressed. And it's been a huge change for me. I changed from working to being able to move into a managing position very quickly because of replacemyself.com.
Thank you. Yeah, typically people hear outsourcing and they think, oh, they're going to go to India, they're going to have a hard time communicating with them, they're going to get poor work done, they have to worry about what they tell them or they'll steal their business from them, and it's completely different than that in the Philippines. They won't steal your business. They understand what you say. They'll do it right the first time very often. They it doesn't take forever to get work done with the Philippines. Or people think, they hear outsourcing and they think, oh, I'll go to Odesk and hire someone temporarily when I want this thing done, and they'll be really good at what I want, and then they'll give me it back, and then I'll go and do it again the next time I want something done. And it's just not a good way to run a business where you're constant. It's like having 100% turnover every day. In a business, and it's really, really hard to do that. It's hard to run a business like that. It's hard mentally to be a business owner like that, and that's a part that a lot of people, I know that before we did this, the last time we talked, you had asked me if there was any like epiphanies that I've had in terms of like running a business. Here's one for you. Mentally, it is hard to run a business when you don't have someone else there to help you. When, if you're trying to use Odesk or Elance or Guru.com or a freelance or whatever, that person is not there to help you. They'll do a project, they'll do a job, they'll do something for you, but then when they're done, they're gone. And that's kind of been an epiphany to me where it's like, I have these people that I can rely on completely. They're gonna be there for me. So if I want to train them on something stupid, if I want to train them on how to filter my email for me,
right?
Not respond to my email, just filter through it and get rid of some of the junk out of my email inbox. I can teach them to do that because they're going to be there for me tomorrow. And that's you just cannot do that with a contract worker, with a freelancer, And so that was kind of something that most people don't realize, this difference. And it took me a long time to recognize the difference of why this was so effective for me, but if you're hiring contract workers, it's mentally it's challenging.
Yeah.
So,
what I love about it is people they may not be aware of this on the call, but my end goal ultimately when I came and signed up with replacemyself.com was to certainly work smarter, not harder. And I mean, we've heard some of the cliches thrown around where a lot of people fail and that they can't work on their business while they're working in it. But I love how you've paired this up with your own look at the 4-hour work week by Tim Ferriss and then tailored that into your own 17-hour work week. Now, I'd love to share that with other people as well on the call, because I'm sure some people would be aware of Tim Ferriss, but they wouldn't know specifically about your 17-hour work week and the reasons for you saying 17 over 4.
Okay, so let me tell something really quickly before I talk about that, just so people have an idea of kind of what we're talking about. We're talking about hiring full-time virtual assistants in the Philippines for like $250 a month.
Right.
So, this is super, super affordable. $250 a month full-time. It's crazy affordable, and it's not hard. It's something that people listening to this can do. So in talking about the 17-hour work week versus the 4-hour work week, the first guy that I ever hired, it was the single most liberating experience of my life. He was a programmer, and I was a programmer. I graduated from college in computer science, and I love programming. But at some point I realized writing code doesn't make money. It doesn't make me money in my business. It doesn't make sales. It doesn't make someone click check out or buy,
Right.
And while I was programming, and this is the same for just about anything you do, while I was programming, I just couldn't do the other things that I was doing, or that I needed to do. I couldn't do the marketing. I couldn't deal with the sales stuff. All I could do was programming. And, if you're in your business, you're trying to do the articles and the videos and manage your website and do the directory submissions and do the SEO yourself, you can't make sales. It's really, really, really hard. And so when I hired this guy, all of a sudden I was free to like not think about programming, and I was free to think about like making sales in my business. And it just opened up a whole new world for me where all of a sudden I didn't have this responsibility that I had before. And I've done that numerous times since where, all of a sudden, since I didn't have to do the programming, I could like implement these things that I knew I should be implementing, like article marketing. And all of a sudden I started doing article marketing and it was super effective. And then I hired someone else to do the article marketing for me, and it was costing me $250 a month for someone full time. And all of a sudden it was like, what do I do now? Because I got other people doing the stuff that I, kept myself busy with. Now I can like look at my website and say, why aren't people buying?
Right.
And I understand, and I can change it. And there's still traffic coming in, and we're still fixing the software stuff, and it's just other people doing the work. So that's kind of like the story of, or like the evolution of how I reduced my workload down a lot. Now, I've been at the 4-hour work week. I've been at the 1-hour work week, really. and the reason I talk about 17 is because that's what's real for me. For like the last 4 years, I've worked about 17 hours a week, and sometimes it's less, and sometimes it's more, but usually it's about 17 hours a week.
Okay.
And I play golf 5 days a week. I watch football on Saturdays. That's all I do. It's not all I do, but I like to watch football. That
explains where you were on the Saturday at the event that I ran into you.
The event that you went to, I left the event early to go to the football game. That's right. That's kind of where I am because I figured out a long time ago that I could get other people to do my work for me. And after I realized that I could get them to do the work, every business decision I have made since then has been based around, am I going to have to do this work or can someone else do it? Because if it's me that has to do it,
right.
I know there's a problem there. I know that I'm not building myself a business. I'm building myself a job.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I base all of my business decisions is can someone else do this for me? And obviously there's things I have to do. But once I realized how good they were, I get them to do it for me.
A lot of people think that setting up a business is great, and I love that it relates very specifically to the E-Myth. If anyone's read the E-Myth Revisited, it's all about setting up systems so that, like you say, you're running a business, not a job. And what I like so much about your program, when I initially got in, there's a huge amount of content behind the scenes. You've got Q&As, you've got coaching calls, as well as internet marketing seminars that you give access to, in addition to the normal training modules that you can send to your VAs so that they start getting trained up on certain internet marketing tasks. But I appreciated the Q&A specifically because they addressed, again, the fears that I was having about my perceived inadequacy with being able to manage a team remotely. But for you, what have you found has been the greatest strengths when it's come to managing an outsourced team, to just keeping a high-level overview of the entire project?
Dude, that's a really good question. I think one of my bigger strengths is my ability to recognize that other people aren't perfect. And when they didn't do it right, or when they didn't do it at all, or when something goes wrong, to recognize and say, maybe this is my fault, not theirs. Because so often I see people who tell me, John, I tried hiring someone in the Philippines and it just didn't work. It doesn't work. I'm like, well, why? Well, they just didn't do it right and I couldn't deal with it. Well, from what I've seen over the years, Filipinos really, really, really just want a job. They really want a job, and they want you to do a good job, or they want to do a good job for you. And if you're willing to spend a little bit of time and effort in making that relationship good with them, where you train them and teach them because they really look up to you, it can be very, very, very effective. And where if you're not, and that's something that I think I've been able and willing to do, is to teach them and train them and kind of build a relationship with them. where, I've had people working for me for 6 years.
Yeah.
In the Philippines, and those people are unbelievably good. If I told you some of the things that those people do for me, you'd be shocked. And where if a lot of people just kind of aren't willing to put in a little bit of time and effort into that relationship to teach someone how your business works.
Right.
And that makes it really hard. It's hard to manage people where you're not willing to put in a little bit of time to get those people working with you. So.
And I have to apologize to the listeners because I'm very subdued as I listen, because essentially it's like relearning all this stuff. And it's so fundamental to what I'm striving to do as a business owner. But I like how you touched on the point that you should always look at it, or you tend to look at it naturally as maybe it's my fault, not yours, with respect to the VA. But it relates to a book I've been reading ever since the seminar that we met, and it's called Good to Great by Jim Collins. And he talks
Fantastic.
about, it's an amazing book, but he talks about every great leader in these good to great companies always looked at, when it came to a fault with a company, they were always looking in the mirror. But when they looked at, the success of a company, it would always be through a window to the rest of the company. So I think it epitomizes that kind of mentality, that mindset, that you're always striving to do the best you can and then just be accountable whenever possible. So I'm glad you raised that point as well. And to back up your example of building relationships and training and teaching people, I myself still have the 2 developers and designers I ever hired. So it's a testament to not only your training, but the tip that you need to foster relationships and build them up, because, you'll be surprised what people will do for you. And it's great. I mean, it helps to make your business stronger, right?
Yeah, and I mean, especially with the Philippines, there's just some cultural things in the Philippines that will, when you hire someone in the Philippines, as long as you're willing to keep a relationship and foster that relationship and train them, they'll work for you forever. They'll work, literally, they will work for you for as long as you're willing to have them have a job, which opens up an entirely new world. Because typically, outsourcing in the past, people, it's always a short-term thing. You're never training someone to replace you in your business. You're never training someone to run a business for you. You're always just getting one thing done, as opposed to getting someone to do everything for you. And in the Philippines, because they'll never quit, and because they don't want to steal your business, all of a sudden it just opens up all these possibilities, as long as you're willing to spend a little bit of time and put in a little bit of effort. And you could kind of almost do that here in the U.S., except that in internet businesses it's just too easy for someone to copy you. Not always, but often it's just too easy for someone else that you train to go do it on their own. Which here in the U.S. they will always do that. Not always, often. Where in the Philippines, they don't want to do that. They don't want to go steal your business. They just want the job, and it just opens up all kinds of possibilities of what you can teach and train and have someone do for you.
Have you got any experiences since you've been in business and you mentioned that there are a few examples of people that have just been exceptional, that have done above what you expected. Is there anything that you could share with the callers to show how they exceeded your expectations?
Yeah. I swear, every time I get one of these emails from them, I swear I'm going to remember it. And for times like this, I probably get an email every week of someone doing something crazy where they went above and beyond. I'll just tell you a couple examples. So one time, one of my websites, one day we got dropped from Google, and I didn't know why, and I got an email from my Filipino that says, "Hey, I think we got dropped from Google today," and I go and look, and sure enough, our traffic is down 10 times what it was yesterday, and we're still getting some traffic, but it's nothing like, MSN and Yahoo aren't the same as Google.
Okay.
And I looked at it and said, I don't know why we got dropped from Google. I don't know. Just keep doing what you're doing. There's nothing we can do about it. We haven't done anything wrong. Just keep doing what you're doing. A couple weeks later, he sends me an email that says, I think I figured it out. And I'm thinking, what did you figure out? Because I didn't ask you to figure anything out.
Mm-hmm.
He says, look at this. And he sends me a link to SEObrowser.com, which shows you what Google sees when they look at your website. So it shows you like text stuff.
Okay.
He says, look at the bottom. So I look at our site in SEObrowser.com, and and at the bottom I see 300 links to spam pages.
Oh.
We had been hacked. Our website had been hacked. And it was a smart hacker. Instead of like defacing our homepage, they just put links on the page to their stuff.
Yeah.
Except they used some like crazy code JavaScript trick, something to make it so that you couldn't see it, the human couldn't see the links, but Google could. And so, I freaked out immediately and said, "Oh my gosh, we've been hacked. Please fix this and get it down." And so, I sent it back to him, and he fixes it and fixes the hack and gets the links off. And within a week, we're back up in Google, just like nothing ever happened.
Oh,
and
good.
I thought about it and sent him an email and said, "Hey, I remember that when you told me about this, I said, don't worry about it. There's nothing we can do about it. Why did you go do that? Why did you go and like figure out what happened? Why we had gotten dropped from Google?" And here's the response. He says, I figured it out because I know that if your website's not getting traffic, then your website's not making money. And if the website's not making money, your business isn't succeeding. And your business success is important to me.
Amazing.
And, yeah, like what do you say to that? So, there's an experience of someone going above and beyond. Or, I hired a girl to do video marketing. This is just like these last couple of weeks. I hired a girl to do video marketing for me. She doesn't know anything about it. I hired her because her English is fantastic, and I can just tell she's very, very smart.
Okay.
So I gave her some training, and she goes through the training and sends me this full plan of like, here are the videos on your blog. Here are the videos that you have. Here is what we should do with them. We need to set up another Facebook account for you. We need to get this Twitter account. Here's the YouTube account we're going to use. And then here's the plan for when we're going to upload these videos with these descriptions and these tags. And is this okay? Can I start? Like, really? It's amazing, And all I had to do was hire her.
Right.
$400 a month, full time. So, I think a lot of people will find that, and I could literally tell you story after story after story. More than once from another one of my guys in the Philippines, I've sent out an email to my newsletter, and he sends me an email and says, "Sir, the email that you sent out today, the link was broken in it." And, so I've done this a couple times, so I check my links a lot better now.
Okay.
But like I sent out a broken link in a newsletter, and he says, "But don't worry, sir, I fixed it for you."
Cool, man.
I was like, what? I never asked him to subscribe to my newsletter. I never asked him to watch it or to read the newsletters, but he not only did he subscribe to it, he's reading them and checking to see that everything's correct. And if it's not correct, he fixes it. Just like I never asked any of this. And yet, these are different people that I have, all just going above and beyond in order to help my business.
And then again, just to reiterate for the listeners, these are people that you're paying approximately a maximum of $500 a month in order to do this service.
That dude who did that one, he's a programmer and a graphic designer. He now makes $650 a month.
Oh, okay.
When I hired him, he was at $450, but he's at $650 now.
Wow,
so
that's incredible.
And he's been with me for like 3 years. So the guy knows so much about my business. I can ask him to do just about anything technical. I can ask him to do anything technical in my business, and he can do it.
No, I'm very familiar with your approach to making sure that people provide daily reports, and that's been a huge empowerment for me. But can you just reiterate for people how important it is to have some kind of way of communication that's structured, it's regular, just to free you up from the added stress of overthinking things that your VAs may be doing?
Yeah, I think that's the point of it, is to free you from overthinking what they're doing. I require all my people to send me a daily email, and I make them answer specific questions in the daily email every day. And there's two reasons. One, it holds them accountable for what they're doing. But two, and this is the real reason, and I didn't know this when I mean, I didn't even implement this in the very beginning. It was someone else that implemented it for me, this daily email thing. But what it really does, what I found, is that it lets me not micromanage people. Because I know they're going to tell me what they did, and I don't ever have to think about what they're doing until I get that daily email. I don't have to think or worry about, like, oh man, I wonder how many directories they did, or how many articles they did, or if they finished this piece of the website. I don't have to think about that because I know they're going to tell me if they did or not.
Right.
When they send me that daily email. And so I can let my brain focus on more important things like sales and marketing and networking and relationships for my business. And let that daily email take care of the small things where, when they send it to me, then I can become a manager and I can think about what they're doing. And I can reply to them, and I don't have to think about it again until the next day when I get another one. And it really, really lets my brain be much, much, much more effective.
Awesome. So everyone's heard about all these all these things they can apply in their business, from hiring someone in the Philippines to being able to manage them effectively. What's the next step for someone that's listening to this call now? ReplaceMyself.com, they sign up, they receive the trainings, but it's more than the trainings, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, so the next step is to watch a webinar. I regularly run webinars where I teach this, like in full detail, how to become the CEO of your business and where to hire Filipinos and, what skills to look for when you hire them and, what the hiring process is. And I have 22 tips that I go through of hiring Filipinos, how to pay them, how to manage them, what things to have them do for you, how to train them on those things. I teach all this on a webinar, and the webinar is completely free. So for a lot of people, the next step will be to go watch the webinar because it's going to save you so much time and difficulty in doing this. So For some people, the next step is to go hire someone because, frankly, I've been around long enough to know that some people just aren't going to watch the webinar. I know that. They're going to go try and do it on their own, which is fine. I struggled through it for years and made it work. And other people, you can make it work. You don't need to watch my webinar to make it work. It'll just make it a lot easier. But the next step then would be to go to OnlineJobs.ph and hire someone. So that's the place where you hire people. OnlineJobs.ph, where you find a Filipino to hire. So for half the people listening, the next step is to go to OnlineJobs.ph and hire someone. For the other half, it's to go to ReplaceMyself.com and watch a webinar. I think wherever you put this, we can probably put a link for people.
Yeah. I'll put that right below this interview so that people can automatically click to the webinar so they can check out those tips that you mentioned. And then anyone that's, like you say, interested in taking action immediately, obviously they can go to OnlineJobs.ph. The other thing that I always like to get, the top resources that you've found most beneficial for you. So there may be books. It could very well be your own blog or other people's blogs, but what kind of resources or reading material, training material would you recommend to people that are looking to get into the managing mindset so that they can focus on working on the business?
Oh, wow. The E-Myth Revisit is definitely one of them. It's amazing. The 4-Hour Workweek.
Oh, of course.
Changes everything. It changes everything. And I'll tell you, I never intended to create this, but I've had people tell me that, Tim Ferriss taught them in the 4-Hour Workweek, taught them what they want. It teaches what the lifestyle is, the way you should be thinking. ReplaceMyself.com is the how.
Right.
Because he doesn't really give you the how. He kind of talks around it a little bit.
Yep.
And gives you some suggestions, which I think, frankly, are not the best. But it's an amazing book of what you want out of life. And then Replace Myself is how. This is how you accomplish it. ReplaceMyself.com and hiring full-time Filipino VAs to do the work for you. So the E-Myth and the 4-Hour Workweek are really, really great. I put a lot of my thoughts on my blog at jonasblog.com where, for example, I recently recorded a video on some of the stuff that we've talked about today, one of the topics, and that was because I just kept seeing this problem over and over and over and over again. So, I put my thoughts down on it just to help people out, to let them know how and why and how they can do this better,
Right.
So Jonas Blog is that's a good resource. I'm trying to think of what else would have significantly helped me. One of the things that the 4-Hour Workweek said, and this I think really pushed me over the edge, was just give it a shot. Like, if it doesn't work for you, okay, you'll at least know that it doesn't work for you. But if everything changes, your whole life is changed. You'll never look at business the same way again. Just go give it a shot. Get the experience of hiring someone else to do work for you, and that was like, that really helped.
That's
me. So.
No, that's awesome, because a lot of us will know we've got certain systems or processes that we do day in, day out. But if you're looking to take action, get a result sooner rather than later, then I fully support what you say about checking out replacemyself.com, connecting with you on a webinar, and then being able to just learn, all the stuff that I've learned and applied in my business that have really helped me as well. So, hey, I can't thank you enough, John, for taking the time to share this knowledge with my viewers, my listeners as well. And we definitely look to keeping in touch with you as well in the near future.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. It's been really great.
Now, if anyone wants to connect with you in other ways aside from your blog, are you around on Facebook or Twitter, or what's the best way to do that?
I'm on Twitter at John Jonas.
Okay.
On Facebook, you can search for John Jonas.
Cool.
I'm a little bit crazy about Facebook. I won't just friend people that I don't know.
Right.
So if you want to join if you want to like the fan page, there is kind of how I keep in touch with people on Facebook.
Okay. And so that'll be facebook.com/replace myself?
/John Jonas Official.
Okay.
Some other dude took John Jonas. That really irritated me. But there's nothing you can do about it.
We'll find them and take care of them later on. I'll hire a VA to do some work.
Well, someone else took youtube.com/replace myself. And no, Twitter. They took at replace myself at Twitter, and I managed to get them to give that to me. So.
Oh, cool. That's
yeah.
So for guys that are looking to connect, you've got 3 ways of doing that. One of them slightly harder because you'll actually have to, be in touch with John and then build up a relationship, but that's the name of the game. So again, thank you very much, John. It's been a huge pleasure to get to talk to you, spend time with you, and then